Good morning. How's everyone doing? Thank you for joining me in this TradeStation Masterclass. Today, we're going to highlight a study that's built into the TradeStation platform called the Ichimoku Cloud. It's not something that TradeStation created, and it's been around since the 1960s, and it's pretty much in all the trading platforms out there. It's an indicator that you can use, and we're going to take a look at the intricacies and the calculations of the Ichimoku Cloud and some of the signals and interpretations that you can do on that study. Before we get started, the usual disclosures, just keep in mind that every symbol and idea that we talk about is for educational purposes only. These are not recommendations of TradeStation. Also, active trading is not suitable for everyone, and past historical performance is no guarantee of future results. If you need any details on these disclosures, just go to tradestation.com/important-information, and you'll find all the risks associated with trading right there in that link. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. I wanted to talk to you about what we're doing next week. Let me just bring this over here. Okay, so I am going to share a link with everyone here. It is for the TradeStation Masterclass in Chicago, Illinois. This is happening September 24th, so that's next week. For some people, it's going to be hard to arrange travel in such a short notice, but we are doing an in-person masterclass with a focus on derivatives. So we are going to highlight futures options and futures options. And we have a lineup of great speakers. Let me just pull the page right here on the screen. The link that I just shared in the chat will take you here. It'll talk about what the event is, some of the topics that we'll go over, and the lineup of speakers that we've contracted to speak during that day. So if you are in the area in Chicago, if you're within driving distance, or if you can arrange travel in a week, it'd be great to meet you guys in person. Again, that is going to be in Chicago, Illinois, September 24th, which is next, not this Thursday, but the following, okay? All right, let's go ahead and talk about the Ichimoku Cloud. We're going to jump over to TradeStation as well and try to understand some of the signals that the Ichimoku Cloud is giving us. First of all, what is it? The Ichimoku Cloud is a technical study that is based on price channel analysis. We're going to go into the calculations, and you're going to see how similar the Ichimoku Cloud is to a simple price channel. It's a little bit more elaborate in the sense that we're looking at different time frames of the price channel, but it's the same concept. As we said at the beginning, this is an indicator that goes back to the 1960s. The designer or creator of this study is Goichi Hosoda, and the indicator back in the days in 1960s, you can just imagine the challenges that traders had to calculate Ichimoku Cloud. So we didn't have computers readily available for the trader. So anybody that's doing technical analysis was doing this by hand. So not only capturing the open, high, low, close of every single historical bar, but also making all the calculations per bar and being able to draw this on the chart manually. That was a challenge. Nowadays, Ichimoku Cloud is something that we sometimes take for granted in terms of how it's calculated. We just put it on the screen and wait for the Ichimoku Cloud to give us some signals. It is also known as the Ichimoku Kinko-hyo. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but we'll go with that pronunciation. And it translates one glance, one look, equilibrium, or balanced chart. So the idea that this technical analyst Hosoda had back then when he created the studies to be able to look at an indicator and have everything in there, not have to rely on other studies to provide him the signals. He imagined this indicator to provide you everything you needed in terms of what the market is intended to do, the conditions that the market are going through, and some of the things that you can do going forward. One of the main ideas behind the Ichimoku Cloud is that it helps you identify support and resistance levels. It also provides you price momentum, and it gives you an indication of trend direction. Yes, all three in just one technical study, and that's why it's called this at a glance and equilibrium. One of the things that I wanted to point out about the Ichimoku Cloud, if you don't use it, is that the first time that you put it on the chart, there's a lot. There's a lot of lines, there's a lot of calculations. There's a concept in this study that's called the cloud, which is the shaded area right there in the middle of the graph. So let's go ahead and take a look at each one of these lines and how they're calculated. They all have or maintain their original names, like the red one is called the Tenkan, the magenta is the Kijun. Those are the main two calculations that drive some of the other lines of the Ichimoku cloud. For example, the Tenkan and the Kijun are used to calculate the cloud. So the cloud is made up of two lines, and between the two lines is shaded in color. And there's a fourth or a fifth line, which is the blue one. This is the Chiku, which also has a very straightforward calculation, and we'll take a look at that as well. All right, lines. The Tenkan. The Tenkan is also referred to as the conversion line, and it's a very simple 9-bar high and 9-bar low price channel. Let me go over here to TradeStation. I'm going to set up a couple of charts just to have an understanding on what the Ichimoku indicator is trying to tell us. Let me go here to my TradeStation. I am going to open up a chart analysis window. Here it is. In fact, I'm going to open up two chart analysis windows. So apps, chart analysis. I'll go to window and arrange it vertically. So I have the charts side by side. I'm going to link these two windows by symbol and also by interval. I'm going to change the symbol here to, I'm not sure what, let's go ahead and go to Tesla and change the time frame to daily. Okay, so these are daily charts of Tesla. Let me disable account orders and positions on these charts so I don't get distracted by more lines on the graph. And what I'm going to do here on the left-hand side is I'm going to get started with a built-in study called the price channel. We did say that the Ichimoku Cloud is based on the price channel analysis. So I wanted to just take a look at how it compares. So I'm going to go here to price channel. All right. And that goes on the screen. But I'm going to modify this price channel because one of the things that we learned is that the Tenkan line, one of those first lines of the Ichimoku Cloud, is using 9 bars for the calculations. I have to change that in the inputs of this price channel. Okay, that makes my channel a little bit tighter. Let me just open up my screen here so that we can see the two lines. So we see the top line at 29.79 and the bottom line at 28.28. I did say that I was going to switch this to Tesla, but it seems like it only took the T from when I typed in TSLA, which is okay. T is AT&T, and we can still use it. The lower price will help us keeping track of the calculated values. Let me just make sure that I quiet my phone. Otherwise, it'll continue to ring. All right. And over here on the right-hand side, I'm going to add the Ichimoku Cloud. Everyone here should have access to the Ichimoku Cloud. So it's just a matter of going to studies and clicking on add study. And let's go here and look for Ichimoku Cloud. I'm just going to add it as if I were adding it the first time. And I'm just going to click OK. Now, one of the things that it's going to happen is this pop-up or events log, because there's something you need to do to the chart so that the study can plot. One of the things that it says here is that the study attempted to reference too many bars to the right of the chart. Please adjust the properties of this study. I wish the study would automatically adjust the bars to the right of the chart, but it doesn't do it. It needs a little bit more space to the right in order to plot, because the cloud of the Ichimoku is actually moved forward into the future. It's calculated with historical data or what's happening right now in the markets, but at the same time, it's shifted forward so that you can apply that calculation to any future values and try to do some projections. So let's go ahead and take a look at the chart. Let me go ahead and close this window. The space to the right is referring to the space that's available here to the right of the most recent candle. Let me open up my chart here a little bit. So this space right here, by default, TradeStation will give you 5 bars to the right. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it just kind of doesn't give you anything. You may see that visually there's more space, but there's only 5 bars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. After that, there's nothing here, even though it may seem that there isn't. I'm going to double click on the background because that's a way or a shortcut for you to access bars to the right. I'm going to double click here and go to the general tab because that is a window setting. It's not a symbol setting, it's a window setting. So right here in the general tab, notice that you have the space to the right and you see the 5. So the question is now, how many bars do we input here so that the Ichimoku Cloud can plot? The offset for the cloud inside of the Ichimoku is 26 bars. So it's going to just take that whole cloud and shift it forward 26 bars into the future. I'm going to click OK, and there we go. So that adds the 26 bars to the right, and I'm going to go here to studies. I don't have to add it again because it's already added. It's just turned off. Whenever you add a study that generates an events log and it generates an error, is because you need to fix something, but the indicator is already on the chart. It's just not able to plot anything. So I'm going to go here to edit studies. That the Ichimoku Cloud is already there. I'm going to turn the status on because if you notice the status is off and you don't have access to the customize button because it's grayed out. So it just disables the study until you're able to fix whatever setting is it that you need to fix. And then you come over here, click on status so that the status turned on, and then you can click on customize. You have access to the study. We're not going to modify anything at the moment. In fact, we're just going to use the Ichimoku Cloud with the default parameters or the parameters that it comes with. I'm just going to click on close, and here we go. So this is what we were talking about. This is the cloud that is shifted forward from the current bar. You can see the current bar is over here, and the indicator kind of projects into the future. Does that make sense? Okay, so we have multiple lines showing up here, and we're going to talk a little bit about them. What I wanted to do, though, from all the lines here, and the colors are a little bit different, we were looking at the 10 can. Now, the data tips window is a window that shows up when you click on the background and you hold your mouse button. I can move my mouse as I'm holding the button around the chart, and wherever that vertical axis falls, I'm going to be looking at the details of that candle and also the values or the calculated values of the Ichimoku. Now, on the current bar, you can see the value for Tenkan. Does everybody see the value here inside the data tips window that it's a yellow number? And you can see that it's called Tenkan. That is 2904. 2904. But if you look over here on my price channel indicator, we have 2979 and 2828. The calculated value, as we go back here to our PowerPoint, is our 9-bar high plus the 9-bar low divided by 2. So we have to add that highest high and lowest low for the past 9 bars and then divided by 2. Let me go back here. I'm going to bring up my calculator. All right. I'm going to do 2979 plus 28.28. That'll give us 58.07, and I'm going to divide that by 2. And this is 2904 or 29.035, which rounds up to 2904, which is exactly the Tenkan value that you see here, 2904. So we know exactly where the calculated value is coming from. Is just the midpoint of the price channel of 9 bars back. Clear. Let's go back here to my PowerPoint. The Kijun is the other line that pretty much goes along it, and it's called also the baseline. It's the same concept, but instead of looking at 9 bars back, it looks at 26 bars back. Let's go back here to my chart. So if I were to modify this price channel and set it to 26, okay, it's a longer term price channel, which I think it's very close to what we had earlier, maybe just a slight difference, but the calculated value would be, let me just delete everything that's here, and we're going to do 2979, which is the top line. We're going to add the low line, which is 2803, and we are going to divide that result by 2. 2891, so a little bit lower, and that is going to match the Kijun line, which is the magenta number inside that data tips window, the 2894. So now we have the 2 calculated values. One is a short-term 9-bar price channel, or the midpoint of the 9-bar channel, and the magenta line is the midpoint of the 26-bar channel. And one of the things about the Ichimoku Cloud is that we're looking to analyze the relationship between these 2 lines, the Tenkan and the Kijun. Oh, by the way, I wanted to share with everyone here a copy of this PDF just in case you want to take a look at the information or my notes on each. So let me go ahead and go to my media folder and try to copy this link for you. Okay, let me share it here in the chat. So that'll give you access to my PowerPoint slides. Perfect. What I wanted to do next is see what the next line is. Senku A and Senku B are the top and bottom of the cloud. Top and bottom. The top is Senku A, which is the Tenkan plus the Kijun. Notice that we need to start by calculating Tenkan and Kijun, which is the 9 bar and the 26 bar. And then we take those two lines, we divide them, we add them together, and then we divide it by 2. And that's going to be the top of our cloud. Now, the top sometimes becomes the bottom, but we're going to call it the top in a bullish mode. And we're going to take a look at it in just a moment. So let me go back here to my TradeStation. On my TradeStation, we're talking about this line right here. This light blue line is Senku A. And as you can see, the value is right in between the Tenku and Kijun. Tenkan and Kijun. Sometimes I butcher those names. But you can see that if you look at where those two lines are and you imagine where the midpoint is, it aligns with the value of that light blue line. And that's where the calculation comes from. The bottom line, as you can see over here, it's a 52 bar high and a 52 bar low divided by 2. So we go back to the standard calculation of the price channel. We have a short-term 9 bar, we have a mid-term 26 bar, and we have a 52 or long-term 52 bar. As you can see, you know, the calculated values, they use 26 and 52 to reference weeks, because originally this indicator was designed to be plotted over weekly charts. Although you can use it on daily bars, and you can also use it intraday if you want to do, but originally the intention was for this to be applied on a weekly chart and be able to track the 6-month mark and the 1-year mark from today's date. That's why those values are 26 and 52, referencing the number of weeks that are in a year. Okay, so if we go back here to my TradeStation and we wanted to calculate what this orange line is, we have to look at the highest high from the last 52 weeks and the lowest low, and then find the midpoint between those two. Now, notice how that Senku A, which is the top of the cloud, and Senku B, which is the bottom of the cloud, it's two separate lines. And what the Ichimoku Cloud does, it just shades between those two values. And it looks like a cloud. TradeStation doesn't have the ability for you to shade horizontally. That's why it's not a full shade. We do a grid that shows up in between the two lines, and that's the way that TradeStation mimics the shaded cloud. TradeStation Desktop does not have the capability to shade completely between the two lines, but you get the idea of what is happening in the indicator and what the shade is of the cloud. In this case, the shade is the lighter blue, and that is a bullish cloud. If the cloud was orange, meaning that Senku is at the bottom, then you are in a bearish mode. Let's go back here to the calculated values. And the last line of the Ichimoku Cloud is what we call the Chiku. And the Chiku is just the 26 days in the past, is the close plotted 26 days in the past. So yes, we have some lines like the cloud, which is projected into the future. And now we have a line that is moved over to the past. And that is that cyan line that you see here in the background. If I look at the value of that line, you can see that it's Chiku right there in my data tips window, 29.39, which is exactly the closing price. So we do the closing price of the current candle and then move it back 26 bars as a signal line as well. Okay, let's go through some of the signals of the Ichimoku Cloud. As I said earlier, designed for weekly charts, but it's up to you to use it on daily and even intraday intervals and try to make some use of the signals that are generated there. When the price bars or the candlesticks are above the cloud, it said that the mode is bullish, and whenever the price bars are below, it's bearish. The longer the prices stay above or below the cloud, the stronger the trend. And we look at different examples of the Ichimoku Cloud, like recently, AT&T has been above the cloud. You can see that very clearly here, and it said that AT&T is in a bullish mode. The cloud tries to identify levels of support and resistance. Passing through the cloud is considered neutral. A lot of times you're going to see the markets move inside the cloud momentarily and then bounce back up as a way of finding support. Of course, the market can just cross the cloud and go to the other side from top to bottom and from bottom to top. And of course, that can be an indication of a change in trend. But many times, if you're looking at a market like this, you can see that TNT, for example, kept its prices inside the cloud for many days. We had a few exceptions where it actually dropped below the cloud, but it just recovered very quickly. We can say that this acted as some sort of support where TNT just bounced and then it's in a bullish mode at the moment. Tenkan and Kijun crossovers, I'm sorry, I was going to say, that doesn't make any sense. Tenkan and Kijun crossovers identify new bullish or bearish momentum bias. So there's a lot going on in the Ichimoku Cloud, and the Chiku above the price bars is bullish and below is bearish. Let me go back here to my chart. Let me make this chart a little bit bigger so we can see more of the Ichimoku. All right. So whenever the candles are below the Chiku, it is said to be Chiku above the price bars is bullish. Okay. So whenever the Chiku line, which is this cyan line, is above the bars is bullish. And whenever the Chiku is below the bars, it's bearish. Remember that this Chiku is just whatever the prices are doing right now, but moved over to the left-hand side. So there's a lot of things that you can interpret about the Ichimoku Cloud, and it's up to you to decide how is it that you want to interpret those signals and react to them. The first one of those signals is whenever the Tenkan and the Kijun cross over using Chiku as a filter. So you get a bullish signal when Tenkan crosses over Kijun and Chiku is above price bars. In a bearish signal, Tenkan crosses under Kijun and Chiku is below the price bars. Signals can be filtered using the overall trend of Chiku. Going back here to my Ichimoku Cloud, let me see if I can find something that gives me a little bit more clarity in terms of bouncing back and forth. Yeah, this is Tesla, which is a symbol that I originally wanted to look at. But you can see that towards the beginning of this chart, we see a lot of bouncing back and forth inside of that cloud. But let's take a look at something historical then. All right. So what we're looking for is for the yellow line to cross over the magenta, and for that to happen, as the signal says, Tenkan crosses over Kijun and Chiku is above the price bars. In this case, we see the Tenkan crossing over Kijun and the Chiku line is above the price bar. So that would be considered a bullish signal. If the cross under happens, like for example, if the Tenkan crosses under the magenta, and we look at the Chiku and it's under the price channel, this is a bearish signal. One thing that we don't have in TradeStation is a strategy based on these rules. It'd be very interesting to create a strategy that follows these conditions and be able to test that. I haven't tested it myself, but it's just an interesting thing to think about and maybe do it at a later time. Now, the conversion line and the baseline, the Tenkan and the Kijun, cross over with cloud as a filter. So same concept. The only difference is it happening above the cloud or below the cloud. If the crossover happens above the cloud, it's a strong bullish. If the cross under happens below the cloud, it's a strong bearish. When it happens in the opposite direction, when you have a crossover, like a bullish kind of crossover, but you are below the cloud, it's a weak bullish signal. And the same happens when you have that crossover under, but you're above the cloud, it's a weak bearish signal. Let's see if we can find some of those right here. So we're talking about the crossover of these two lines. For example, right here where my cursor is, you can see the Tenkan crossing under the Ten and the Kijun. So this is a bearish signal, and it's happening above the cloud. So would this be weak or strong? This is a cross under above the cloud, so it makes it a weak bearish signal. If this type of scenario happens under the cloud, and let's see where it happened. Like for example, right here, it didn't maintain itself there for a long time, but you can see how the 10 can crossed under the Kijun. We were under the cloud, and it made it more of a stronger bearish signal. So yes, relationship of those two lines again. And notice how we can look at the similarities. The 10 can and the Kijun, which is the yellow and the magenta, crossing over in relationship to the cloud, or crossing over or under in relationship to the Chiku line. That's the only difference between those two signals. The cloud breakout, you enter the cloud, and then you break out of the cloud. If you break to the upper side, it's bullish. And if you break to the downside, it's bearish. So those are another signal of the Ichimoku cloud. The cloud crossover, again, you're at the bottom and you go all the way above the cloud. Or vice versa, you're at the top of the cloud and then you cross all the way down. And there is also a flip on the cloud. I'm not sure if you noticed, but whenever those two lines cross, the light blue and the orange, the cloud flips. You are in a light blue cloud, meaning that it's bullish, or you're in an orange cloud, which is bearish. So not only we're looking at how the price bars are crossing that cloud, we're also looking at the flip of that cloud as a signal. So yes, you have access to the PDF so that you can take a look at all the signals and see which ones are the ones that provide you stronger trades, depending on the security that you're trading. Remember that every symbol that you look at is going to be different. The market behavior is going to be different. So we cannot say that one signal is better than the other. It's a matter of testing different scenarios and see which one fits the security that you're trading. If I go back here to my TradeStation, one thing that I wanted to show you is that you can use the Ichimoku Cloud also in RadarScreen to do some filtering and to do some analysis on a portfolio of symbols. If I go over here to my RadarScreen, let me just open it up here quick. All right. For my RadarScreen, I'm going to add a list of symbols. Let me go here with the NASDAQ 100. All right. Those are the 100 symbols of the NASDAQ. Let me change the interval. I'm going to change that interval to daily. And I'm going to add the Ichimoku Cloud. So the Ichimoku Cloud is also designed to work in a table format, which allows you to do ranking and filtering, a lot of things that are not available in charting. In charting, it's just one symbol. We were looking at Tesla. But over here, we cool to look at the whole market and see which ones are triggering which signals. So I'm going to scroll down here to find Ichimoku. And you see the difference right there. The Ichimoku Cloud for RS is the one for RadarScreen. And I'm just going to add it and put it right here at the very end. Actually, I'm not sure if that's one that I modified or if it's one, or if it's the default one. Let me just take a look at the other one that's there just to see what it gives me. Because I may have modified the Ichimoku Cloud so that so it wouldn't have all those extra columns. Yeah. And that's exactly what happened. If you look at the one on the right, I believe that's one that I modified to be a little bit different. This is the signal, 10 can signal. The cloud is either bullish or neutral, neutral, or bearish. The alert, this is just a simple alert. It says new bearish trade. And then the Chiku, it's telling you if it's bullish or bearish. Similar to this one, but this one, the Ichimoku Cloud, has other columns that probably you don't want taking up so much space. For example, the Tenkan value and the Kijun value, all these other columns, they may not be necessary. All you're interested in is whether we're above the cloud or below the cloud, whether the Chiku direction or the trend direction is up or down or neutral. So a lot of times when you have an indicator that has columns that you don't need, just right click on the column header, go to studies, and you have the ability to show or hide plots. If I go there, I can remove any of the plots that I don't need. I don't need Tenkan, Kijun, Chiku. I don't need the cloud or the A cloud or the B cloud. I just need these three columns. which are going to tell me the trend direction, price location, and then the Chico direction. And you can see that in some cases we're below the cloud, above the cloud, and sometimes we have a new up. Let's just take a look at what that new up means. I'm just going to reduce the size of my radar screen, remove some of the columns that I don't need. For example, let me remove the net change, and I'm going to remove the bid, ask, high and low. Okay. And I'm just going to open up a new chart over here on the right-hand side, and I can copy it from this one so I don't have to recreate it. So I'm going to copy the window, go back to this other workspace, right-click, and paste the window. Sometimes if you do some setups, the bars to the right and other settings that I set, it's better just to copy the window and move it wherever you need it. So this is my chart. Let's go ahead and link these two together because I want to see what this new up means. DEX is a security, and the new up, I think it's referring to the way that the two lines are crossing at the moment. The Tenkan and the Kijun are crossing on the current bar, and it's just telling you that there's a new up. Let's go ahead and confirm that with this other one, KLAC. Okay, KLA Corporation, and you can see how there's a crossover between the Tenkan and the Kijun. So that new up, it just means that you're getting a crossover. Most of them are new ups. I don't see any new downs, but I do see some neutral. Let's see what the neutral means. Neutral, the definition of neutral would have to look at the easy language code to see what it means, because a regular up is whenever the Tenkan is above the Kijun, and a down, for example, for Axon, is whenever the Tenkan is below the Kijun. So we are up or down. The neutral, I would think that, let's see, the two lines are within the cloud. Is that what neutral means? Here, it is the case for CD and S. The two lines are within the cloud. Let's take a look at this other one, which is CrowdStrike. For CrowdStrike, no, I think the neutral is just whenever the two lines are very close to each other. That's what neutral means. We saw it on the other example as well. Let's take a look at Netflix here, NFLX, and you can see how the two lines, the Tenkan and the Kijun, are very close to each other. Let's see, the Chico direction, we just have up and down based on where the closing prices are in relationship to that line. But I also wanted to see, I'm not sure if you guys have this other indicator. Maybe that's, as I said before, one that I created. But on the price location, we have below the cloud or above the cloud. There's a whole bunch of different alerts that you can take a look at. One thing that I do recommend is that you take a look at the easy language if you want to find the details of the alert. Many times I find myself going into the studies and clicking edit easy language for any study, in this case, the Ichimoku Cloud, to look at the different alerts, right? Here's the code for the Ichimoku. You can see that it's going to be a very long code, but as part of the code, we should see some alert criteria. Let me see if I find the first one. This is just calculating all the different lines. All right, here we go. Tenkan crossing over Kijun. We have an alert. Then we have another alert. Tenkan crossing under Kijun. And those are the new down and the new ups that we talked about earlier. But in addition to that, we have, let's see, more alerts. I'm just scrolling down here. Okay, here's another one. Close crossed over top of cloud recently. So whenever the candlesticks cross over or under the cloud, we have those alerts as well. And those alerts are only triggered if you turn them on. So always keep that in mind. In addition to seeing the alerts as text inside of the columns, you also have the ability to edit the study and turn on the alert. That's the way that all those alerts are going to be triggered. Let me go ahead and turn that on. I'm going to disable messaging, and let's just take a look at one. For example, right here, there's one. ARN is triggering the alert right now. And the reason for that is, go back here to my code. Let's see. One of the things that I found, bars since cross. There's a word here that says bars since cross under bottom cloud. There is a setting inside of the Ichimoku Cloud that keeps track of how long the crossover has happened. Because maybe a crossover on the current bar is important, but who is to say that a crossover that happened 1 or 2 bars ago is not important? Because maybe it has the same importance, and we want to keep an eye on anything that has crossed recently. So that's the nature of the alert here, that it crossed over recently. Notice that it has the word recently inside of the alert message, but that is probably not in the current bar, but it happened recently. And that's exactly what we see here in this example. ARM is triggering the alert because it crossed over the cloud recently. It happened 1, 2, 3, 4 within 5 bars. Let's take a look at another one here. This is BKNG, Booking Holdings. And let's see. Yes, we have a cross over the cloud on the current bar. That's one that is happening as we speak. CDNS, notice that it's giving us a signal, and the signal here would be, I think it's the crossover of the Tenkan and the Kijun, because it hasn't how the candlesticks, unless it's keeping track of the crossover on the cloud on the past couple of bars. That could be it as well. So yes, a lot to keep track of, a lot to analyze, and again, is at your own discretion to find the signals that work best for the security that you're looking at. But it's important for us to understand what the Ichimoku Cloud is trying to tell us, and where is it that we find the specific signals that can present trading opportunities. That's my class for today. Thank you so much for attending and joining me in this class. Please do not forget the TradeStation Masterclass in person in Chicago, Illinois. It'd be great to meet you in person. Have a wonderful afternoon, and I hope to see you in one of my future classes. Goodbye, everyone.